Hello, welcome. However you find yourself here today, I'm very happy. I'm glad that you can come and listen to my message for this morning. My message for this morning is something that I call vision over sight, kind of following the same principle as just as over because. So today we're going to be looking at vision and what God's vision is in our life compared to the sight and the things that we see around us. So the scripture reading, while you guys are pulling it up, I'm going to be sharing a story. But that the scripture reading for this morning is going to be Acts 9, verses 1 through 18, or 19, sorry, 1 through 19. I know it's a bit long, but I'm not going to break down each individual verse. But anyway, while you guys are pulling that up, the first time that I realized that I needed glasses was in my sophomore year in high school. And I was a band nerd, and I was in band class. And I love band. It's fun. I actually still do the drum line here in college. But in high school, you had to be in band class in order to be in the drum line for marching band. So there was one day in class when our teacher, because usually I went up to the front of the classroom and read the instructions before class started. But there was one day when our teacher forgot to write the instructions up on the board for what we were going to be doing today. So as we were all warming up individually, she wrote it up on the board. And so I noticed that I had to walk up pretty close to the front of the room in order to be able to see what she was writing. And so then a few days later, this happened again. But this time, by the time she wrote what was on the board, we weren't warming up individually. We were all warming up as a group. So I turned to one of the guys who was next to me in class, and I was just like, man, don't you hate it when she does this? And then he responded back, and he was like, what are you talking about, man? And then I was like, dude, how she goes and writes the stuff on the board when we can't even see from here all the way up to the board. I mean, like, you can't read that. And then he's just like, wait, you can't read that? And I was like, no, can you read that? I was like, what are you talking about? And he's just like, no, yeah, you should be able to read that. And so my vision, my sight is not something that I had questioned because it is something that hadn't been tested for a while, which is probably the reason why it took so long to figure out. But I hadn't been tested for vision like 4 or 5 years. And so I just assumed that it was still 2020, like it was the last time that I got tested. So lo and behold, we go to the optometrist, or you know what I'm talking about, the eye doctor, whatever that is. And so we go to the eye doctor, and she's flipping through that little thing. If any of you guys have ever been to the eye doctor, you know what I'm talking about. It's like where you put your eyes up. It looks like 2 little goggle holes, and then she has like little frames that she'll flip through, and then she'll be like, okay, picture 1 or picture 2, and then you have to pick which one looks clearer. So after we went through and we did this for probably 5-10 minutes, however long it took. And so at the very end, the very last 2 that she showed me, she said, okay, now which one is clearer? Frame 1, and she flipped it. And it was very hard for me to make out anything. Like if I wanted to read what was like the letters that were being shown up in front of me, I would have had to like sit there and try to interpret what was written. Like it would have had to take a lot of thought processing in order for me to be able to read what that actually says. And then the second one that she flipped to, it was so perfectly clear that I didn't even have to think twice about it. And so when I responded to her, I was like, without a doubt, frame 2 is much clearer. She goes, really? That's interesting. Because frame 1 is your natural vision. She said, I took all the lenses off. I took all the filters off for frame 1, and that's your natural vision. So at that moment, I realized that I had been living my life for a long time without knowing that I'm missing things that are around me. And then in that moment, it also kind of made sense because my mom, by this point, I had already got my driver's permit and everything. And so my mom and dad both complained that I was a very choppy driver. That's how they described it. It's like I would slam on the brake and have to press the gas pedal really hard in order to get going because I couldn't see what was around me. I didn't have good vision while I was driving. And that was just because we didn't know that I needed glasses. They just thought that I was a bad driver. But I promise, I'm not a bad driver. So if you ever find yourself in a car with me, I'm a good driver, I promise. Just make sure I'm wearing contacts or glasses. But, so when we went up to the counter or whatever it is that they hand you your glasses, a few weeks later when we came back, I got my glasses and we were sitting down. The doctor was sitting across from us, and behind the doctor there was a window that looked onto the street and then onto the other side of the road as well. And then my mom and I were on the other side facing this window. So when I put the glasses on, and I think anybody who has glasses can attest to this moment when you first put them on. It's like when you first put the glasses on, you're like, leaves! And for any of you guys who don't need glasses, you're probably wondering, what do you mean, leaves? No, I promise. I didn't know that leaves were supposed to look like that until I put my glasses on. I could see individual little tiny leaves from trees that are all the way on the other side of the road. I didn't think that that was normal. I thought that you were just supposed to see a green blob at that point. And I'm also slightly terrified because my vision is on pace with my mother's vision, who is now, I don't even know how I could survive if I had to live like that. I love you, Mom, but it's a bad vision. But anyway, so my problem was that I couldn't see with the right vision. And so many people in their lives, we go around seeing but not being able to take in everything that's around us. If somebody who needs glasses were to take off their glasses, they would be able to make out certain shapes, but they won't be able to tell you specifically what it is. They won't be able to interpret what it is without sitting there thinking about it for a very long time. But when you put your glasses on and correct your vision, then you can see without a doubt, and you can tell people without a doubt what you are experiencing. So before we move into Acts 9, I would like to share with you the difference between vision and sight and the way that I'm going to be talking about them today. Because if I don't address how I'm going to be talking about vision and sight today, then most likely you're going to get confused as I go through and talk about what I'm going to be talking about. So vision, okay, well actually let's start with sight. Sight has humanly explanation. Vision has divine implication. Okay? And I do this, another way that you can think about it, if you don't like the words that I use, that's fine. The sight is so that we can see what is around us. Vision is how we interpret what is around us. And God, once God comes into your life and gives you a calling, gives you a vision, gives you a motivation, then you will no longer be able to just see what's around you, but you'll be able to understand and interpret why it is there. So as we go on into part 2, we're going to be starting to read and diving into Acts 9 and looking at Saul and the way that he transferred from sight to vision. So I hope to see you back for part 2.